That pop in your ears on a plane is not your ears struggling. It is your ears winning. Deep in your skull, behind a membrane thinner than a sheet of paper, you are carrying around a sealed cave of trapped air. And that annoying little pop is a built-in valve slamming open to save it. You have been cursing the rescue. Let me introduce you to the dumbest, brilliant piece of plumbing in your head. Behind your eardrum sits the middle ear, a small, sealed air pocket, not connected to the outside world, not open to the wind. Just a tiny bubble of air, walled off by a drumhead of skin, sitting there in the dark, quietly minding its own business. That drumhead is your eardrum, and it is absurdly delicate. We are talking about a stretched membrane thinner than a single page of paper, tuned so finely it can pick up a whisper across a room. Sound hits it, it vibrates, you hear. Beautiful. But that same delicacy is also its weakness, because a tiny drum hates being pushed on. Here is the problem your body had to solve. On the outside of that eardrum is regular air pressing on it. On the inside, in the sealed pocket, is also air pressing back. As long as both sides push equally, the drum sits flat and happy. The whole system works on one quiet assumption. The air in front and the air behind are at the same pressure. Now stick that head on an airplane. As the plane climbs, the air outside gets thinner, lower pressure. But your sealed middle ear pocket is still stuffed with the same dense, sea-level air you trapped on the ground. So now, the inside is pushing harder than the outside. Same air, suddenly outnumbered, and your poor eardrum is caught in the crossfire. So the eardrum does the only thing a stretched membrane can do when it gets shoved from behind. It bulges. The higher pressure air inside pushes it outward, like a balloon straining against a wall. That feeling of fullness, of your ears being stuffed with cotton, that muffled underwater sound. That is your eardrum being physically deformed by trapped air. It is not happy. Run the same horror show in reverse on the way down. The plane descends. The air outside gets thick and heavy again. High pressure. But your sealed pocket is now underfilled. So the outside air wins and shoves the eardrum the other way, inward, sucking it back into your skull. Same membrane, same abuse. Just a pop the wrong way. Either way, a tiny drum is getting bent. This is where evolution reveals it saw this coming. Long before you, our ancestors needed this exact fix. Because the middle ear is not, in fact, perfectly sealed forever. It has a secret back door, a narrow tube made of bone and cartilage that runs from that air pocket down the back of your nose and into your throat. A drain pipe, a vent, an escape hatch. And it has a name. It is called the Eustachian tube. Say it once, so you never forget the hero of this story. The Eustachian tube. It connects your sealed middle ear bubble to the open air of your throat, which means it connects it indirectly to the outside world. It is the pressure release valve on the side of the most delicate drum you own. And it stays mostly shut on purpose. If it were always open, every breath and every word would roar straight into your middle ear and you would hear your own voice like a foghorn. So it sits closed, holding the seal until the pressure builds up too far. And then, when you swallow, or yawn, or work your jaw, a little muscle yanks it open for a fraction of a second. And it snaps open. And in that fraction of a second, the trapped air does what trapped air desperately wants to do. It rushes through the tube to equalize. Air floods out if the inside was too high, or floods in if it was too low, until both sides of the drum are at the same pressure again. That rush of air through a tiny valve, that little click of relief, is the pop. The pop is the rescue. So flip your whole understanding of it right now. The pop is not something going wrong. The pop is the exact instant something goes right. It is the sound of your bulging, straining eardrum being yanked back to flat. The pressure released, the deformation undone. The drum is saved. You have been wincing at the sound of your own body rescuing the most fragile instrument in your skull. And this is not some clumsy afterthought. This is a built-in safety valve, refined over evolutionary time, sitting in every human head. The same tube does double duty, draining fluid out of that sealed pocket, so it does not turn into a swamp. One narrow tube of bone and cartilage, quietly keeping your hearing alive every single time the weather, or the elevator, or the runway changes the air around you. This is also why every trick people use on planes is really the same trick. Chewing gum, sucking a candy, yawning on purpose, sipping a drink. None of it is folk magic. Every single one of those forces you to swallow more. And swallowing is what tugs that little muscle and pulls the valve open. People are not soothing their ears. They are spamming the open button on the Eustachian tube, over and over. There is also the maneuver where people pinch the nose and gently blow, with the mouth shut. I am describing what people do, not telling you to do it, because forcing air around in your head is a thing to be careful with. But the principle is pure plumbing. They are pushing pressure up the back of the nose to pop the valve open from below. Same door, different knock. Now, here is a cruel little detail your anatomy throws in. Going up is easy mode. When the inside pressure is too high, the air kind of burps itself out through the tube without much effort. But coming down is hard mode. A relative vacuum inside actually tends to suck the tube shut, locking the very door you need to open. Going up, the valve cooperates. Coming down, it fights you. Which is exactly why descent is where ears actually start to hurt. The plane is dropping fast, the outside pressure is piling on, and your stubborn little valve is being held shut by the vacuum it is supposed to fix. You swallow and swallow trying to crack it open. And sometimes, for a few awful minutes, it simply cannot keep up with how fast the sky is changing around you. And when the valve genuinely cannot equalize in time, the membrane just keeps getting stretched, harder and harder, with nowhere for the pressure to go. That is no longer a friendly pop. That is the sharp, deep pain, the muffled deafness, the sense of a wall behind your ear. The clinical name for the drum being injured by pressure it could not release is barotrauma. The pop is the thing that prevents it. So picture the worst-case villain in this story. A head, cold. When you are congested, the lining of your nose and throat swells up, and that swelling reaches right into the mouth of the Eustachian tube and squeezes it nearly shut. The valve that was already shy is now jammed. Your safety vent is clogged at the exact moment you ask it to work hardest. That is why flying with a cold is its own special misery. Step back and look at what is actually happening in there. A sealed pocket of air. A drum thinner than paper guarding it. A constantly changing sky shoving on that drum from outside. And one narrow automatic valve opening on a swallow, releasing the pressure before the membrane tears. The pop is not the malfunction. The pop is the whole reason your hearing survives a single airplane trip. And the genuinely elegant part is that you can hear the system working. Most of your body fixes itself in total silence. You never hear a clotting wound or a beating valve in your heart. But this one repair announces itself, a tiny audible click, every time it saves the drum. It is, in a strange way, a pressure gauge you can hear. Your ear telling you, out loud, that the equalizer just fired. It is not just planes either. Elevators in tall buildings, driving over a mountain pass, diving to the bottom of a pool. Even a strong weather front rolling through can shift the pressure enough that your ears quietly equalize without you noticing. This valve is firing constantly, invisibly, all day, and you only consciously notice it on the dramatic occasions when the sky changes faster than usual. So the next time your ears go full and muffled in a climbing plane, and then release with that soft little click, do not be annoyed. Be a little impressed. Your body anticipated before you were born that you might one day be flung through changing pressure and it pre-installed a vent for the most fragile membrane you carry. It had a plan the whole time. Your popping ears are not a glitch in an otherwise good day. They are a paper-thin drum, a sealed cave of air, and a tireless little valve doing exactly what it was built to do. On cue, under pressure. The Eustachian tube. Remember the name, because that pop you have spent your whole life finding mildly irritating is, every single time, the sound of your body saving the drum.